What is up, all you cool cats and coders? Welcome to another video on the Sam Codes channel. As you can tell by the title of the video, today we're going to be talking about how do I take the stuff in my database, the data in my database, and then go and put it back into an HTML form. So just to show you what I'm talking about, let's make a really quick form name. So let's see, we're going to call it, we got a guy. His name is Kevin. Back to my office days. I forgot Kevin's last name, so we're going to call this one Leary. Is he on Shark Tank? I'm not too sure. And he lives at 3456 on Neat Street. I like the recommendation there. He lives on 3614 Neat Street in that zip code, wherever that is. He wants 5 pizzas. And y'all know in my other video, we kind of set up what we were doing here, and he wants delivery, he wants meat. All right, so I have this place order in my pizza database. Boom, it was a success. Inserted into the database. And like I said, check out my other video if you want to know how I set all that kind of stuff up. So we go to check order status. Boom, and we see now that we have the guy. His name's Leary. Order ID is 95. His order is in progress. All right. So we've taken that data from the database and we've put it into this table in HTML. But wait, we're not done. We can take this status, we can click on it, and it's completed. So now the order has been completed. Oh, and he's had his pizza. So now if we go back later, we check the order status again, we see that this order is completed, this one's still in progress. Oh heck, why don't we just go ahead and make that one completed too? I like seeing everything done. It satisfies my OCD. All right. So they've all been completed. So how do we do that? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get into it. All right. So let's open up VS Code. Let's go to our check status page. That's, of course, the name of that HTML page. I have the HTML actually built in. Some good coffee with the PHP. So let's go ahead and kind of see what we did here. All right, so first thing you got to do in the HTML is create a table. Now PHP and HTML, you can write them in the same form, in the same PHP form. So the first thing I do up at the top, I connected that connect PHP file. I include that, and that connects me to my database. Once again, how to do that is in the other video. All right, so then we have our HTML. We come in with that, and we do all that good junk right here. We're linking to our JavaScript, linking to jQuery, all that kind of stuff. Put our title, and then boom, here we go. We start with the table. All right, so we need to make a table row. That's going to have the last name, the order ID, and the status. As you can see here, last name, order ID, status. I probably need to go back and format those. I'll do that at some other time. Where was I at? Okay. Okay, and then we got to hop into some PHP. So basically the way this works is in your HTML, when you need to include a PHP statement, like some if else or for loops or while, all that kind of stuff, you just kind of put it in this own little PHP bracket and leave it inside of the, what is that? And leave it in, put it right there in the HTML. So we're going to make this SQL statement right here in the PHP. We're going to take the customer table, we're going to take the pizza order table, and we are going to join them with an inner join where the customer ID equals the pizza order.customer ID. So this is basically just if the two IDs match up in the customer ID column in the pizza order and the ID column in the customer table, if they match up, then we're going to merge the tables together. And then we're going to order that by descending. So that means the newest entries in the table would be at the top. And I think, yes, I made a graphic for that. So here's kind of what that ends up looking like. All right, so this is my customer table. This is my order ID table, or my pizza order table. And what I do is where the ID matches up right here where the ID, I know this first one's kind of janky. I got to work that out at some point. But basically where the ID matches up with the customer ID, right? Because this is the customer table, the ID column matches up with the pizza order table, the customer ID column. We're going to combine those together and they end up looking like this. right here. And we'll come back to that in a minuto. So then we go if. We have this if statement. Now you can't write if statements, of course, in HTML. So keep in mind this is all still in this PHP bracket right here. So if this result, we're going to declare a variable called result, and we're going to equal it to MySQL query connection in the SQL. So if it's successful, if we can combine them, I guess, then we're going to do all this stuff if they're able to be combined. So we set up a count variable. I did that so at most on this page it would only show 8 entries because I don't want to have like an infinitely long page showing everything in my database. So I capped it at the 8 newest entries into the database, and we'll see that in a second. I have a fix me here to go back later, like I was talking about fixing that first row. So while row equals MySQL fetch row result. So what does that mean? That's kind of like that's where the magic starts to happen. So basically what a MySQL fetch row does is it fetches one row from a result set and then it returns it as an array. So we're going to take one of the rows, going back to this picture, we've combined the tables. That was what that SQL statement did. Now what the MySQL fetch row does is it takes this first row right here, boom, and it returns that as an array. So row at index 0 is going to be 96. Row at index 3 is going to be 3614 Colonial Road. All right, and then once it gets done with this row, you know, while there's another row, we're going to keep doing it. So we're going to basically just step through the 8 rows, I guess, in this database. So once you get done operating on this row, whatever's in the while statement, boom, you go down to the next row and you use it. So row at index 2 would be Simmons, but then when you go through the iteration the next time, row at index 2 is going to be Bell, and so on and so forth. So while count is equal to 8, we're going to increase count. Now we got to hop out of our PHP again and do some HTML stuff here. And I know it looks really confusing with all the bracketing and stuff, but I mean, that's kind of the only way I saw to do it. So we're going to create a new table row. We're going to create a data cell in that table, and we're going to style it with the table cell. That's a CSS I got set up. And we are going to do some inline PHP kind of stuff here. So in that table cell, we're going to echo out whatever is on the row at index 2, which of course would be the last name right here, last name. And then in the next data cell over, the next table cell, we're going to echo out what's in row 5, row at index 5, which is going to be our order ID right here. So we're going to output what's at index 2. Then in the next data cell, we're going to output what's at number 5, or what's at index 5, which is your order ID. And then we get to the good stuff, or the complicated stuff, I guess. What kind of threw me for a loop. So we have to know whether the order is complete or whether the order is in progress. That way the employees know what they need to do with the pizza. If they need to make it or they just need to ship it out. So we have this PHP column right here. That's no bueno. What's the point of that? At row 11. So what is row 11? Row at index 11 is going to be a fulfilled. So I'll put this in my pizza order. It tells me whether it's a Boolean. It basically tells me, okay, is the order still not complete or has it been completed? So we're going to check at row 11 in this new combined table that we've made, row at index 11, and that's the fulfilled column, and we're going to see if it's 1. If it's 1, then we're going to insert into the table a button, and we're going to give it the color green, and we're just going to say completed. If this value is true, and as you can see from right here, boom, there it is. If fulfilled is true in the database, then the status is going to show up as this. However, let me create a new order really quick with just some random stuff. However, if we have an order and the database is not complete, right? The fulfilled is not true, then we set it to in progress like this. And the only way to make it true is by, of course, clicking the button. So right here, that's the if. All right. So if it's completed, then we're going to output this green completed button thing. Then we hop out the PHP, we hop into the PHP, my bad, and make an else. And then we hop out the PHP again after the opening bracket, and then make this right here, this HTML. So this is the part that I got stuck on, but once I figured it out, it just made perfect sense. So if it hasn't been completed, we're going to output a button that says in progress. All right, and the button's color, I mean, that's covered right here in the button. The CSS for the button I set up is going to be, you know, that yellow color, right? But we have to make this button a link. It's got to link to something. All right, the other button didn't. This one links to an update for field.php page. So what that does is when I click on that button, it's going to send me to this PHP page right here. And it's going to send this value, what is it, row 5, to the PHP page as the variable called ID. All right. So what is actually at row 5? Let's see. Row 5 is the order ID. All right. So once I click on this button, it's going to take me to this update fulfilled PHP page. And in row index 5, whatever that order ID, it's going to call that ID, right? And it's going to send it to that page. So let's go ahead and hop into the update fulfilled page and see what's in there. So first thing we do, of course, connect to the database. And then we have this get statement right here, this PHP get. Now, what that does is basically when the user clicks on the button on the check status page, the parameter ID, right, this ID, which is equal to the order ID, which is in the row, is sent to this page. But we have to have a way to kind of call it down. All right, so it's kind of sitting up there, but we have to have a way to actually define it. We have to actually have a way to pull it into this page to be used, I guess. So we check if the ID exists, all right, which it does, because we know we just sent it here. Now we're going to access that value that's stored in ID, which is row index 5, and we're going to get that, and then we're going to assign it to a variable called order ID. All right, and I echoed it out right here for the purposes, you know, just my test, and I never deleted that. So with here, going back, yes. So basically we're going to shoot them 96, order 96, all right? That's going to be the value that is shot over here to this page, update fulfilled. And then we're going to make this SQL here, this SQL statement. It says update pizza order table. We're going to set the fulfilled column to 1 where order ID equals order ID. All right, that's pretty self-explanatory. Stupid. We're going to go into the pizza order table. We're going to find the fulfilled column. We're going to set it to 1 where the order ID is equal to that order ID. So actually, do I have, I think I do. It should be here. Yes, here it is. So pizza order table. We see that fulfilled is 0 right now. No, yes, fulfilled is 0. Going to the customer table. Keep in mind these have been combined. This was the order I just put in, a Stephen Howell right here. All right, so we see that it's 0 right now. So they've checked. We know it's 0. But now we're going to update it. If once we click that button, it's going to go to this page, which is going to shoot down and inject all of this SQL code into the database. So our order ID equals 94. Fulfilled is equal to 0. All right, but we're going to update it. So wherever that order is, we're going to go to that row in the pizza order table, and we are going to change this value to 1 if it is 0, which it will be 0 because that's the only way we get to this page if it's 0. So basically this statement just helps us find the correct row. That's what this does. Where order ID equals order ID, that finds the correct row. We go to the fulfilled column on that row and we set it to 1. If it's a success, then we just wait 0.1 of a second and we go back to the check status page. So we basically just reload the page and show the updated stuff. And if it's a failure, we just tell them, okay, it wasn't changed. And then we go back to the page. So by changing the value directly in the database, this allows us to, after we've, of course, changed the database, after we've clicked the button and it's changed, by that fulfilled value being in there, when we go out and we come back in, it's still updated, right? So with that, we've now got it set up. We know how we pull our data out of the database and put it into the table. And we also know how to do this little cool thing with the PHP, you know, send in values into other PHP documents for buttons and stuff. With that being said, I will let y'all go. I will see y'all next time. Thanks for watching. As always, contact info is in the description. And I will catch y'all on the flip. So, peace out.